Hi, I'm JD. I'm the lead developer of MegaWorld version 3. In this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about what MegaWorld is, how to get started with it, and some tips and tricks that will be helpful. Here we are at the home page of MegaWorld. Basically, we just want to click this button, and that'll take us into the game. If we haven't ever played before, we're going to have to register a new account. So let's click that button. And let's think of a username for ourselves. It looks like our username is available. If we pick one that is not available, note that we'll see an error showing us that. So let's make a new user and come up with a password. Has to be at least 6 characters, and click register. Once our new account is registered, we can simply come up with a name for the player that we want. I'm just going to use the same name as my username in this case, and I'll be male, and how about let's become an orc this time. Your teacher may give you some instruction as to which birthplace to pick, but I'm just going to pick the first one for now. The attributes will affect different parts of the game, and we notice dexterity is a little lower than I'd like to see, so let's click this button, and we'll try for some new attributes. That looks a lot better, so I think I'm going to stick with that. My wisdom could be better, but let's just continue here. We have our avatar, and we can customize things a little bit. The orc doesn't have too many options, but we can use the left and right arrow keys on the keyboard to scroll through different options that we have. So I think kind of like the look of this orange guy. And unfortunately, the orc doesn't have so many other attributes, but especially if you're using a human or other races, you can choose a lot of options and customize the look of your avatar. So let's save that. And now we're ready to play. So simply click on the character you want to use. If you want to create a new player, you can also go ahead and do that as well. If we are making a human avatar, we have quite a few options to play with. We can use the left and right arrow key to choose different options for how we want our avatar to look. There's quite a few hair options. And you just play with that until you dial it into the way you want it to look. I'm not sure if I'm crazy about this green top, so what else have we got here? This red one looks pretty good. And we'll click Save Avatar. And welcome to MegaWorld. You'll see our player on the birthplace that we chose. Here are all the important interface elements in the game. At the top left, you'll see the menu. You can click that to see a few options, including a toggle to switch into the dark theme, the help that this video goes with. You'll have the ability to go back and change your player if you want to switch to a different one. You can also use a few other options like logging out of the game if you're done. When you see one of these dialogues, you can always click the corner button to close it, hit the escape key on your keyboard, or just click anywhere on the screen outside of the dialogue. At the top, we'll see the status bar with all the different stats that are important to the game. Here's your health, mana for casting spells. Your movement points or energy are really important because without them, you can't move at all. So you don't want to be stuck with this running down to 0. Make sure you eat something if this gets low. You also have money that you can use to buy items. In the top right corner, you'll see the zoom in and zoom out buttons. We can zoom in to get a better look at the current tile we're on, or you can zoom out to see more of the map. We're going to set that back to 100%, the default setting. In the top left, you'll see the tile info panel, and you can see here that there's a guard here, and of course the title of the map that we're currently on. You'll notice at the edge of the map, you'll get some coordinates that help you determine what your location is, but you can also see that location here in the info panel. You'll have your movement controls that you can use in addition to the keyboard. These are going to be really important if you're on a mobile phone. And at the bottom, there are some buttons for controlling various panels to see more information about the game. The first thing we're going to need to do in MegaWorld is move our player around. This is most easily done by using the arrow keys on your keyboard, or you can use the Q, W, E, A, S, D, Z, X, C keys to move your player around. That way you can even move diagonally if you want, like this. That's important because each movement will take up some movement points, as you can see here. Every time we move, our movement points go down a little bit. Different tile types take different amounts of movement. You'll see at the top left our locations here. If you're on a smartphone or you just want to use the mouse, you can definitely click these buttons as well, and you can move your player in all directions with that. If the movement buttons are in the way, you can click the middle button, and that'll hide the movement buttons, or make them fairly translucent so that they're not obscuring what's in the tile underneath it. If you look in the Tile Info panel, you'll see that there's an NPC that we might want to talk to. To see more information, click the Details button, or hit Enter. And Guard Ken has a quest for us. So let's click that and see what that's all about. Kind of vague, but might be fun. Let's accept the quest. Ken is looking to talk to Chief Spencer, and he gives us a coordinate that we can go to. So let's get out of here. If we look at the quest panel, we'll note that our quest is listed there, and we can click it to see more information. Our quest requires us to go to tile 6.2, so let's navigate there by using our arrow keys. And we're there. So here's Chief Spencer. Let's click Details to see what's up. We'll note that we see this Quest in Progress area, and that means that we can check in and maybe complete our quest. Perfect, we found our guy. Let's complete the quest. So we got some experience points as a reward. That's great. Basically, he's asking us to take on a profession, and you'll note here that there's a profession available. Let's click it. And there are no requirements, so we're good to go. Let's become an Aspen View Hero resident. Great. We now have a profession. If we click the Player button, we'll now see some more information about our character. We can see here that he's got a profession, Aspen View Hero resident. And if we scroll down a little more, we can see all of our attributes as well. Let's look at a couple more features of MegaWorld that are pretty important. If we go to this door, we'll notice that we have the ability to travel somewhere. Simply hitting the space key or clicking that travel button will allow you to go to a new map. And here we are at Galido. Walking down the path, we'll notice that there's a little house here. Professor Edward is here. Let's have a chat with him. He's got a few items that we can buy, and as mentioned before, we're going to need movement points, and to get movement points you need food. He's got some bread for sale. You can simply click the plus and minus buttons to change the quantity you want to purchase. Seems like the price is right, so let's buy a few. If we want to buy more, we can do that too. Clicking on the bag button, we'll see this in our inventory, and there's a little badge beside each item because we have more than one. If you want to split an item off, you can go into the item by clicking it in your bag, and you could click this split item off, and that'll make it take up a separate inventory slot. This is handy if you want to drop one item or give it to another player or something like that. Conversely, if you decide that you want to take up fewer inventory slots because you're running low, you can click it and click Stack Items, and it will automatically try to stick as many in that slot as you can. Let's do that again with the other bread item. And now we're only using 2 slots. In this case, the maximum number of items that can be stacked into the slot for this item type is 5, so you can't stack all of them at once in this case. If you'd rather have the item in a different inventory slot, you can just drag it to where you want it to be. You can even switch the items around by dragging one on top of the other. It'll be a little more clear with a completely different item type. Let's put our breads together. And let's put test item 2 over side here. Clicking the item shows some details about it. Let's click on our bread, and we notice that we now have the option to eat the item. Click the button, and we gain some energy. Each time you eat 1 unit of food, you'll gain 100 energy. Different food might be worth more or less energy. Something I wanted to mention was that the game might behave a little differently if you happen to be on a very slow connection. You'll notice the cursor around your player normally blinks yellow like this. But if you move, and you notice that it might change to a red color for a moment, that's because the game's waiting to sync to the server before you can move again. So if you notice that you can't move and your cursor's red, you might just have to wait. MegaWorld is a multiplayer game, so you might encounter other players from time to time, especially if you're playing with some of your classmates. If we move our orc around, let's see if we can find somebody else. There's JD2. If you encounter another player, you have the ability to communicate with them using the chat panel. If another player sends you a message, it'll pop up and you can see a little badge by the chat panel showing you that you have some unread messages. Let's click on the chat panel, and there's JD. Normally, you're just going to send a message that everyone can see. If you're actually on the same tile as the other player, they'll show up in the tile info panel, and you can click right on their name. You can also click on their avatar, and that will select them in the list of recipients. And then you can send a private message to the user. Let's send a private message to JD. You'll notice that private messages have a different color in the interface, so you can easily tell the difference between a private and a public message. Note that there's a finite range within which we can talk to other people. If we move our character away from JD2, we'll notice that he's going to disappear, and now he's no longer available in the list of recipients. And if we move back, there he is again. Note that other players will only see public messages of yours if they are within range and visible. That should be enough of an overview of MegaWorld to show you how to play, to show you the basics of how to move your character, how to chat with people, and how to use the different panels and interface elements in the game. We hope that you have fun and enjoy your time in MegaWorld.